Good day, madam. So my name is Siti Hasma bin Ismawi. So our topic is the impact of international trade on the local economy. Okay, so today I will be presenting about Malaysian tariff policy and how they affect food security from 2020 to 2025. So to start, food security means having enough safe and nutrition food that people can access at all time. In Malaysia, this issue is strongly linked to trade policy, especially tariff. Tariff can protect local producer, but they can also increase the price of import food. So Malaysia has a mixed situation. For some item like poultry and eggs, we are already more than 100% sufficient. However, we will depend heavily on import for many imported food such as rice, dairy product, animal feed, and processed food. Because of this, global price change or supply description quickly affect our local food price and availability. This creates a key challenge for policymakers. How do we protect local farmers while still keeping food affordable for consume from 2020 to 2025? Even like the COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain disruptions and export restriction from other countries made this challenge even more serious. Okay, thank you. That's all from my part.
Good morning, Ms. Hanim. My name is Sharon, and I'm going to talk about the Malaysian food import tariff policy, especially from 2020 to 2025. Our focus will be now on how the government navigates and delegates balance between ensuring affordable food for consumers and simultaneously protecting and boosting our vital domestic agriculture sector. The first one is that the core dilemma that at our heart of this policy, which lies a fundamental conflict. On one hand, the government's goal is to ensure that food is affordable and accessible for every Malaysian. On the other aim, it also aims to protect and product and support our local farmers and agricultural businesses, ensuring our national food security. This dilemma is becoming increasingly urgent, where Malaysian food import bill has almost doubled in less than a decade, skyrocketing from 42.64 billion in 2014 to a staggering RM 78.8 billion last year. This highlights a growing dependency that needs careful management. The second slide is that I will be stressing about high import dependency, where this is a massive import bill points to Malaysians' significant reliance on overseas markets for our food security. To give you a clearer picture, our self-sufficiency ratio or SSR for a staple like rice is only 56.2% as of 2023. For the other crucial items like beef and many vegetables, our dependency often exceeds 80%, this is a heavy reliance, especially when supply is concentrated from just a few countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and India, which exposes Malaysia to significant supply chain vulnerabilities and potential price shocks, making sound tariffs policies even more crucial. The third slide is that it's about the major policy shift by 2025 by the US and Malaysian trade deal. So with this context of high dependency and the need of balance, a major policy shift has taken place, where the 2025 US-Malaysian Agreement on Reciprocal Trade, or US-SMART, which consumes the agreement, is pivotal changing defining Malaysia's tariff policy in the coming years. It is also important to understand that this is a dynamic economic agreement, which means concession and benefits for each side are deliberately not identical, reflecting the different economic priorities and scale of both nations. Moreover, we are moving to the next slide, which is asymmetrical concession in the deal, where let me first break down these asymmetrical concessions, where from Malaysian side we are making substantial commitments, where we are agreeing to eliminate tariff on an impressive 98.4% of US goods. This will mean a cheaper access for US dairy, meat, and various agricultural products entering our market. Additionally, Malaysia will exempt US food from our domestic sales tax. In return, the US is offering its own set of concessions, which they will reduce specific Trump's trade tariffs on Malaysian goods, bringing them down from 25% to 19% on certain items and off percentage access on a selected list of 1,711 diverse products. The primary and the arguable most significant benefit for Malaysians here is securing zero tariff access for our key export commodities, notable palm oil and cocoa, into a lucrative US market. We are moving to the next slide, which is about the strategic, rational, and it has a four-part balance. Now you might wonder why Malaysia will agree to such asymmetric deal, lowering barriers for such many US goods. The government's strategy is multifaceted, extended to beyond simple domestic protections, which has four parts of balance. First, secure export markets by offering concessions where Malaysians ensures and locks in zero tariff for its own major exports like palm oil, cocoa, and which industrial vital to our national economy. Moreover, the second attract investment is that the deals aims to keep Malaysians competitive and attractive for US, where the other foreign direct investment crucial for our long-term economic growth. Moreover, the third thing is that it manages domestic prices, where it liberalizes, such as waiving chicken import permits can be directly used as a tool to fight inflation and ensure food remains affordable for customers. Finally, it aligns with the standards by adopting international food safety rules and standards as a part of this agreement, which facilitates future trade, opening doors to even more markets globally. And as a conclusion, Malaysian food import tariff policy, particularly with the US SMART agreement, represents a complex balancing act where it's a strategically move to secure broader economic benefits and manage inflation, even as it navigates on the ongoing challenges of bolstering domestic agriculture against increased import competition. It's a pragmatic approach to a multifaceted problem. Thank you.
Hi madam, my name is Keetika. So my part, I'll be presenting on the effects of tariff policies on food security. Food security is built on four pillars, which is availability, access, utilization and stability. And also we can see that tariff policies, which are taxes placed on imported goods, can influence all these pillars in both ways, which is positively and also negatively. So moving on to the next slide, which is impact on affordability, consumer access. First, let's look on affordability. When tariffs are imposed on imported food, the cost of bringing these products into the company increases. Let's see, it's lead the price inflation as the importers and also the retailers pass the additional cost on the consumers. So this shows that low income households is the hardest, since they spend a large share of their income on food. Even a small price increases weakness their access to the nutrition meals, as it shows that results the families may be forced to buy the cheaper or also the lower quality food, or reduce their consumption in trade affordability altogether. So the next slide is impact on domestic production in availability and also stability. Tariff also affect domestic production on the positive side, which is tariff can act as a production for local farmers. By making imported products more expensive, local goods become more competitive. It shows that encourage investment in the agriculture sector. It shows that support small farmers and also the increase local food availability in long run. However, overproduction can also create domestic producers face less, and also the competition may favor improved quality. We can see that in countries like Malaysia, there are also natural limitations such as limited land and high production costs. This means local production cannot always meet national demand, even their tariff in place in quality product. Moving on to the impact on supply chain stability, tariff can also influence the stability of the supply chain. When tariffs are high, importers may rely on only few suppliers because bringing in a food from multiple countries because it shows that more expensive. This reduce, which is important for a resident food system in the country because of the dependent on a small number of domestic products. Any local shock also such as a disease outbreak, climate disaster or production shortage, these all can be distribute the entire food supply. For an example, relying heavily on domestic poultry, farmers becomes risky if an outbreak occurs, and also because of the importers may not be suffocate to stabilize the market. So this is also that impact of supply chain can bringing in food from multiple country, its affect the stability. So in conclusion, tariff policies play a major role in shaping food security. While they can support local industry and reduce the global markets, they can also raise food prices, which is reduce access for vulnerable groups. We can see that weakened supply chain, it's not balanced carefully. Therefore, governments need to implement tariff policies that product local produces while still ensuring affordability and stable food supply for consumers. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Muhammad Afiq Irfan. My number matrix is 012 0250 20137. Today, I'll begin my part of the presentation, which is Malaysia's food import tariff policy, specifically on navigating the balance between affordability and protection. Now, from 2020 and 2025, Malaysia's food security was shaped by a combination of high import dependence and global supply disruptions. We continue to rely on imported staples such as rice, meat, dairy, and other items. During this period, issues like rising production costs, global supply chains, and disruptions have made it harder to stabilize food prices in the country. Because of these pressures, tariffs have become one of the major methods on how the government tries to balance two goals, which is protecting local farmers and ensuring food remains affordable for consumers. These tensions between protection and affordability forms a central theme of Malaysia's food security challenges during this period. Now, let's move forward. Now, for this topic, which is high import dependencies. Malaysia's tariff policies must be understood within the context of a high import dependence. In 2020, food imports totaled about RM 55.5 billion ringgit, according to the Department of Statistics, or DOSM. This reveals how much Malaysia depends on global food sources to meet local demands. Because of this dependence, any global fluctuations quickly impact local food prices. For this reason, tariffs were adjusted during 2020 from 2025 to help stabilize domestic markets. These policies aimed to support Malaysian farmers who face challenges competing with cheaper imports while still keeping essential food affordable for the general population. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is impact of tariff levels on food security. High and low tariffs both clear implications for Malaysia's food security. High tariffs protect local farmers by making imported goods more expensive, giving farmers room to maintain production and support, and making them still, to a certain extent, competitive in the market. However, these high tariffs also have the unfortunate effect of raising food prices because Malaysia imports so much of its food. In contrast, lower tariffs make food cheaper and helps control inflation. This specifically more benefits consumers, especially lower income households such as B40 and M40. But lower tariffs also mean farmers face stronger competition in the context of farmers, which may reduce their income and weaken their motivation to produce So, both sides have significant trade offs, which is why Malaysia cannot rely on solely high or low tariffs and more often than not has a combination of both for a more balanced strategy. Next, which is developing a balanced tariff strategy. Now, a balanced approach involves applying tariffs in a selective and strategic manner. One method is using imported quotas. Essentially, essential imports can enter at lower tariff rates, ensuring that food remains affordable. Any imports beyond those quotas are then subject to higher tariffs to prevent local farmers from being undercut by cheap imports. This structure helps the country balance protection and affordability. In addition, funds collected from tariffs or savings from tariff adjustments can be reinvested into agriculture. These investments, such as improving things such as seed quality, fertilizer, and infrastructure, strengthens productivity in the long term and reduces the need for higher tariffs in the future. Next would be strengthening the food system resilience. Beyond tariffs, Malaysia strengthens its food security through several additional strategies. First is the use of strategic food reserves, which involve maintaining emergency stocks of essential items, such as rice. These reserves ensure that supply chains remain stable even when global disruptions occur. Malaysia must also diversify its import sources so the country is not overly dependent on a limited number of suppliers. This, of course, has a result of reduced risk during global food shortages. At the same time, social safety nets, such as cash transfers and food aid, would help low income households manage rising food prices without harming market stability. Now, let's move on to the next one, the conclusion for this specific part, which is combining tariffs, support systems, and modernization. As from 2020 to 2025, Malaysia's food security was influenced by both domestic production limitations and global market instability. A balanced tariff strategy remains essential, as Malaysia has done, to support farmers while maintaining affordable food prices. But tariffs alone are not enough. So things such as social safety nets, diversified imports and strategic food reserves, and agricultural modernization all work together to build a more resilient food system. Over time, these measures help stabilize prices and ensure reliable food supply, and gradually reduce Malaysia's dependence on imports. Now, for the overall conclusion, which is the last part of this entire presentation. Malaysia's tariffs policy is a double-edged sword. It protects farmers but can raise food prices, while lowering tariffs improves affordability but challenges domestic production. A sustainable food system requires a mix of selective tariffs, agricultural investments, social protection, and a diversified supply chain. Together, these measures balance the needs of producers and consumers and strengthens national food security. Thank you.